Hi, you're listening to The Happiness Agenda. I'm Steve Sapato, and The Happiness Agenda is where we talk about all things that make us happy. And I qualify that because the stories you'll hear are all about how we've started our lives, how we've run into roadblocks, how we've run into stumbles, and then how we've recovered and turned our lives into a place where we find joy, happiness, and success. And so if you're one of those people who is looking for more happiness, looking for more success in your life, this might be the exact podcast. And if it's not, maybe you should send it on to someone who needs more happiness in their life. So again, I'm Steve Sapato, and today I'm blessed to be talking to Kelli Chevalier, a major publicist, and you'll find out from Kelli what she does. Kelli, are you there?
I'm here, Steve. How's it going?
Excellent. And Kelli, tell us a little bit about what you do, like your title and what you're doing currently.
Well, I'm a paid assassin. I get paid money. I kill all that boring and bad copywriting that you see on the web all the time. And sometimes you'll go to presentations and you're like, oh, my God, if this person doesn't just shut up, I think I'm going to put pencils in my eyes. I kill all that kind of stuff. So I help people connect their ideas and their messages with the right audience.
Yeah, Kelli is a professional copywriter, and what's funny about her paid assassin is, Kelli, tell us a little bit about your background, would you?
Well, yeah, because, the one reason I call myself a paid assassin is because I spent 20 years in the military, so I'm certified. I'm trained to kill. I really am. And 20 years in the military taught me a whole lot about how to communicate effectively. We don't have a whole lot of time to explain things, especially when things are mission critical. And so in that 20 years, I served as a public affairs officer, and I retired as a major.
Yeah, and for those of you who've never been in the military, to start out as a PFC and work your way up to major is a major accomplishment, really. I mean, it's phenomenal, isn't it? Yeah, because I don't know. I've had lots of friends who were lifers in the military, and, if they started off as a PFC like most of us, if they got to Master Sergeant, they were probably really doing things right. So when you can end up as a major, you've done a lot of things right. So Kelli has certainly brought herself to the right track. And that says she can bring you to the right track also. Before we get started, Kelli, for people who jump in early, how would they get in touch with you if they wanted to use your services?
Awesome. They can go to wordslay.com, WORDSLAY.com, wordslay.com. They can just fill out a little form there and get right in touch with me.
Okay. And do you have, are you on Facebook or Instagram or any of those places too?
Oh, yeah. On Facebook, you want to connect with me on Facebook, go to Copybreak. Facebook page is called Copybreak, COPYBREAK. And there you'll find me. I do live stream shows every week and teach people little nuggets on how they can market themselves better every day, whether they own a business or not, even if you're in a 9-to-5.
I'm really glad you said that, because this podcast isn't just for people who are self-employed. It's for everyone who wants to be happier and more successful. And a lot of times, what we have to know is how to communicate. And that's what Kelli's going to give you nuggets of on copybreak.com. Or Copybreak Facebook, whatever. Yeah. How'd you say that was?
It's Copybreak. So you would go to, Facebook.com/Copybreak.
Yeah. And so to get on to her little nuggets of wisdom, we probably all should do that. And I'll probably be doing that this week myself, because it's just, I can certainly use the help in being able to communicate better. And I do it for a living, right? So that's what Kelli does.
Yeah,
she takes those of us who talk for a living and helps us get better. So Kelli, tell us your story. Tell us about your trials, tribulations, and what brought you to this wonderful place that you're at today.
Here, I'm going to tell you about kind of like where I had an epiphany,
please,
and, I joined because I joined the Army when I was 19, and things were going pretty well for the most part. There's some hard spots that the Army really wants you to go through to toughen you up, right?
Right.
Well, I'm going to fast forward to 2003 because up until then, I was just getting by. I was just doing what I was told. I was following instructions, wake up in the morning, exercise, eat, sleep, do your job, do it all again the next day. Well, in 2003, we all know what happened in 2003. That was the start of the Iraq war. That was when we went into Iraq. And my unit was one of the very first logistics units to go into Iraq. So at the time, we're on this airplane. It's the C-130, and for those of you who don't know, imagine your regular commercial airline times like 3. It's a really big, heavy airplane. It's huge, and it's jam-packed with passengers, all of us going into Iraq. So we're flying into Kuwait first, and then we had to take another little hot plane over into Iraq. So we're on this plane, and we're quiet. It's like just dead silence. Now, I would say 90% of us on that plane had never been to war before. There was a handful of, old heads that were probably, they Desert Storm or whatever, but most of us had never been into a war. We had no idea what to expect, and
Right.
I could safely assume that there was a lot of fear in the plane. It was just dead silence, and flying along, and all of a sudden we hear a shoot, and the lights go out, and you don't hear an engine anymore. I mean,
Oh, wow.
poof, nothing, no power, zero. And this heavy plane starts to free fall from the sky.
Oh, wow.
Felt, if you've ever been on a roller coaster, imagine the highest peak, the kind of, they like drop you from the top of the highest point and just drop you down. You can feel your stomach like float to your throat.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what we were experiencing, and you're just falling. And again, no sound, just silence. Now, I've been on airplanes where there was turbulence and people like lost their mind. They're like, oh my God,
That's right.
and everybody's screaming and hollering. So here we are on a plane that's literally free falling, I don't know how many miles up in the sky, and it's dead silence. And first thing in my mind was, oh God, it's time to make a deal. Like, I'm gonna have to, it's deal time going on. I'm gonna trade you life for me rocking it out and living out everything that every talent you gave me, and totally rocking it from here on out. If you just let me live, right, I will do everything to the most of my ability. I will do it, Lord. Just let me get through this. So I'm deal making over here, and I can only imagine what everybody else was thinking. But it was in that moment that I was like, you know what? What have I done to this point? Have I lived or have I survived?
Yeah.
And there's a difference, and if I survive this, will I be a survivor or will I be significant? And so in that moment, I said, if I survive this, I don't want to just be a survivor. I want to be significant. I want the rest of my life to be lived to its fullest, and I want it to have so much power and significance in it that people are affected and they, in turn, become significant. Do you know what I mean by that?
Absolutely do. And you might want to explain it further because some of our listeners may not quite understand that if they're not out there doing it.
So I'll clarify. So if you are in your whatever you're doing, you're in your job every day, and you have challenges and whatever. You get up in the morning and you go to work and you're driving through traffic and you're cussing. You're like, oh my God, you're honking your horn and you're, all these little things begin to irritate you, and you get to work and something happens and they ask a little bit more of you than is in your job description. And then you say to yourself, well, I don't get paid to do that. And then, you're just like, I'll set that aside and I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And you just get by and you collect your paycheck and you go home and you start this whole thing all over again every single day of your life. Well, that's where I was, just doing same old, just getting by, surviving. But there was no fulfillment. But when this happened, when you're faced with a life or death situation, and you realize that you're literally looking back on your life and going, well, what did I do all this time? What did I accomplish? What did I change? Whose life did I touch? And there's nothing there. Then you realize, wait a minute, I can't continue like this, because if I'm given this second chance, then I've got to make the most out of it. And I feel like I'm not just on my second life, I'm like on my third life, because what you don't know is in my third tour, I was in a car bomb, and my spine was fractured in multiple places, and now I'm titanium reinforced. So this is really my third life. So what I'm saying to people is, every day is an opportunity to be significant and not just survive.
That's right. And that's really important, that people start to understand that your life does make a difference. Not just Kelly's, but your life, if you're listening. Your life makes a difference, and you can make a difference in other people's lives if you not only are doing your job, but you're exceeding what they expect you to do at your job. If you're touching more lives and being the person that you always dreamed of being. Right, Kelli?
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. There's so much more to it than just getting by. Like, exceed the expectation. You'll be amazed at the opportunities that come your way and how your life opens up when you get outside of yourself and look at what's around you and how you can help others do their jobs better or live their lives better, and you're not expecting anything in return. It's just really overwhelming. And in my job as a copywriter, I create all of this through words. I help people create their world with their words. You know, a lot of times we get stuck in just expressing ourselves. You know, we want to do more. We don't know what to say. You know, we don't know how to approach people. We don't know. We've got a great idea, but we're afraid that if we present that great idea, either someone will steal it or they'll get upset with us for, you know, getting out of our lane. We've heard that before. Stay in your lane, you know. And what I do is I help you express it in a way where people are receptive and they hear you and they understand you, and then you can grow with them.
You know, and that's really important in whatever communication you're doing, whether it's written, something you're producing for work, whether it's spoken, something you're producing for something, maybe for your job or something like I do public speaking. So you go out and do keynote speeches, and if somebody can help you hone that. I just finished my fourth book, and the person that I work with really helped me hone the words as they read through it and said, boy, you need to change this, or is this really what you wanted to say, how you wanted to say it, the message you wanted to convey. And it does make a difference, right, Kelli?
Exactly. So a lot of times we're speaking and we don't edit as we speak. I mean, that's natural. You know, we're human beings, and we just, like right now, I'm not editing myself. I'm just talking.
That's right.
But the key is to edit yourself and make it look like you just thought of it top of mind, you know? And so that is what takes practice. And you have to write some things down and rehearse it, and you get somebody else to look at it and give you feedback. And once you do that a couple of times, it becomes natural. It's second nature at that point, you know? But, yeah, at first it's not going to be.
That's right. So, Kelli, tell us how you got into doing what you're doing currently. I mean, you went from the military. You said, hey, I'm in the military. I'm a major. I'm doing just fine. And then suddenly you just now, you know, I mean, we find you how many years later being a copyright specialist, you know, and a word ninja, you know. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been a writer. I got my first poem was published in a book when I was 6 years old. So I've always been a writer. And then I wanted to go to school for writing. Like, I wanted to go for journalism, or, you know, I wanted to be an author of, you know, all kinds of book series. And I remember talking to my mom, and she's like, I said, Mom, you know what? I'm filling out these college applications, and they're asking me what is my first choice for a major, and I just want to put writing. And my mom was like, no, you'll never, I got to make any money doing that. No, you need to go in the medical field. You do something in medicine, you know. Be safe, like do something like that. And I'm like, darn. So anyway, I decided, well, I'm going to go into pharmacy. Got a scholarship. I used my money. I went into pre-pharmacy. Well, my freshman year in pharmacy school, pre-pharmacy, my freshman year, I'll never forget him, Dr. Thurston. And he kind of looked like that guy in Back to the Future, you know, the mad scientist in Back to the Future. He had those big eyes, you know. and the crazy hair. And she's like, you know what, Kelly, I know you think you're the smartest girl in the room, but you're really barely average. Like, ouch. Oh, my God. Like, that hurt. Like,
Wow, they said
that
that
like
to
really
you?
hurt me. Oh, yeah. He said that. And
Man.
you know what? I'm so glad. I'm so glad he did, because I didn't know it then, but at the time I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm barely average here because I'm not a scientist. I'm not a pharmacist. This is not my jam. I am barely average here. Right? I mean, how many of us are sitting in a place where we're average
Oh,
because
that's yeah, but
that's
no,
not
but
where we're
most of
supposed
us
to
don't like
be?
to think that, right? Most of us, I mean, that's just
No,
not where we think we are.
no, we never connect those dots, and I didn't either at the time, and that's how I ended up in the Army. I struggled, and I lost my scholarship, and I got a phone call from a recruiter, and he was like, "Hey, you did really well on that ASVAB test when you were in high school. How about you come down and talk to me at the recruiting office?" And I was like, "Hey, no, I'm not going to do that, man. All I want is money for school, and I want to get out of my mama's house because she's making me clean up and she's giving me a curfew." And he's like sitting at his desk, rubbing his hands together, like, "Oh yeah, we got her now, right?" And he's like, "Oh, we can fix that. We'll give you money for college. Oh, you want to travel the world? Yeah, you can travel all over the world. We're going to send you to the finest places." He never said Afghanistan, Iraq. He didn't mention those
The
places.
finest places.
You
I
know,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
the finest. Yeah, the finest. You're going to eat great, sleep great. Like, it's going to be awesome. You know, he never mentioned, oh, well, there's going to be bombs dropping on you and, like, planes falling out of the sky. He never said anything about that. So I joined the Army as a PSC. And funny thing is, like, when your talent is there, like, it's just always there. And you really can't hide from it. So I was working as a biomedical equipment repair technician. And they were fielding some new medical equipment, and they didn't have somebody to do all the presentations to these generals who were going to be walking through and taking a look at all the new equipment. So they didn't have that. And they were looking for, somebody who could really articulate what the equipment did and have a personality and, kind of, write some stuff up about it. And I volunteered. I was like, oh, well, yeah, I'll do it. Sure. And I did. And I caught the eye of one of the generals. And he was like, there's something about you that's a little different. And he asked me, have you ever thought about becoming an officer? And I was like, well, no. And he said, you know what? If you say you want to do it, I will fill out the application. I will submit it for you. I'll get you a scholarship, and you can become an officer. I really think that
Wow,
you should do
that's
that, and
nice.
you need to be writing.
I
And
think
I was like, wow.
what's important in part of what you said was if it's in you, it's always in you. And that's important for some of
Yeah,
our listeners to hear. Some of you know you have a gift. Some of you have felt that for a long time and you haven't acted upon it. And that's one of the things that you need to do, just like Kelly is telling you here. And we'll finish up this story in just a minute. But it's really important that you understand that if you have a gift, you have to start finding out how to explore it, how to exploit it, how to utilize it, and how to bring it to fruition so that it really works for you, right, Kelly?
that's exactly right. Like, you have it, you feel it, you know it. It's like whispering in your ear every day. It's like, man, this isn't for me. And you're miserable. You're miserable. And then, like, man, if I could just get to, XYZ place in my career, then I can leave and I can go do the thing I've always wanted to do, you know? And that's where I was. I was like, you know what, you're right. I always wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to be a public speaker. I love being on the stage and expressing myself. And that gave me the opportunity to do it just by volunteering. So in other words, I wasn't just doing my thing and sticking to my job description. I volunteered and was like, I think I can do that. And that's how the opportunity happened.
And that's
So
really
I've been writing
important.
ever since.
That's right. That's really important that when people start to look for the opportunity. Opportunity doesn't always present itself. It's not going to just knock on your door and say, hey, will you come present us your gift? A lot of times you have to start looking for it. You have to seek it out. You have to chase down those opportunities to be a speaker, to be a writer, to be an author, to be a nurse, whatever you're going to be. You have to chase those opportunities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I went back to school. I went to school. I majored in English. I minored in journalism. And because I knew I was going to go back into the military, I owed them. You know, they had me. So I owed them. I knew what I was going to go back to with public affairs. But you can't go to public affairs right away. You have to do, like, you know, choose logistics or whatever, chemical, whatever they have, all these other different branches before you can go into public affairs. So what I did was the same thing I'm talking about now, is I looked for those opportunities. So everywhere I was, I wrote, like, whoever was the colonel or the commander, I would say, hey, can I start a newspaper for you? Can I start a newsletter for you? Can I write some articles and put it in the local paper for you? Can I write your speeches? What can I do? I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I did, and I kept doing it, and it got me out of a whole lot of stuff. It got me out of a ton of stuff, because they would say, oh, no, she's my writer. No, she's my historian, or whatever it was. Like, no, she can't go dig those ditches. I need her over here writing a story real quick. Get your camera, let's go. Like, you know, so it gave me tons of opportunities to network with individuals who I saw as extremely successful and who could open doors for me. And that's exactly what they did.
And that's important for all of our listeners to understand, is that we have to look for the right people too. Connections. I teach professional networking. That's some of the things I do. And when you're teaching professional networking, you look for the people who can make a difference in your life, right?
Is that exactly right? Yeah, you look for, so you don't just look for opportunities, but you know, it's the type of opportunities you look for. You know, is this an opportunity for me to do something I love? Is it an opportunity for me to connect with someone who can mentor me, or who can introduce me to the right person, or put me in the right place at the right time? You know, there's all types of opportunities, but, you know, they're not going to show up unless you already know what it is you're looking for. You know, otherwise you'll just walk right past them. You won't see them.
And there are times in there that we understand that our gifts have to be discovered, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we talk about discovering your gifts, a lot of times, if you take the online assessments for different things, there are lots of different assessments out there. Take the assessment for everything that's offered to you. Find out where your gifts lie. Find out where your strengths are. Find out where your weaknesses are. And as Kelly will share, Kelly, tell us where you went after that. You know, you went from being discovered as a lieutenant, moving into a lieutenant. What happened next?
Mm-hmm. After I, you know, because I got commissioned and everything, and I finally did get to make it to public affairs school, and I had some amazing mentors while I was there. Again, you know, looking for the opportunities and having a good time. But let me tell you, that kind of leads us right back to 2003 when I went to Iraq the first time, and that's what really changed my life and made me realize it's time to, you know, I had to look past. So it's like I met a goal, and a lot of us get there where you met goals that you set for yourself years ago, and now what? You're sort of stuck. You're like, I feel like I've done as much as I've kind of hit my ceiling. I've hit my mark, you know. But when that plane was going down, I was like, no, there's got to be more. Like, there's got to be more to this. If I survive, it means that there's more. And so, like, I believe if you're here today, it's because you have not fulfilled completely on your mission in life. Otherwise, there's no use for you. Like, you can go, right? So there's something still left for you to do if you're here.
That's right. And so then, Kelly, you finished up your military stuff, and and then where did you go from there? I mean, you just go out in the world and say, hey, I'm successful, and I'm just going to retire.
Man, let me tell you, I didn't even want to retire. I didn't even want to leave the Army because I couldn't figure out an honorable way to leave the Army. So I knew I wanted to do something else, and I've been working towards something all this time, but I couldn't figure out an honorable way. In my mind, I kept thinking, you know, the only way out of this is to retire with 20 years or, you know, maybe you get wounded or something, you know, and this was in my head, and this is the story that I kept telling myself. I had actually wanted to leave the Army much sooner than I did. So my third tour, I'm in Iraq, and another great opportunity. I'm working for General Odierno, you know, awesome man, awesome individual. And he's like, hey, you know, Major Chevalier, I need you to go down to this hotel in Baghdad. I want you to meet some of the top war correspondents that are here in Iraq. I want you to share the Army story. I was like, absolutely. Like, this is my jam. I'm doing that. And as we were pulling up to the hotel, there was a van in front of us that a suicide bomber was in and detonated, and the van exploded, took out the whole front of the hotel as well as the two vehicles in my convoy.
Wow.
So I was wounded, and again, this was another turning point. You know, it's like, you know, I was on the ground. All I could hear was just like this sound, this ringing in my ear, and I could smell, but I could kind of see some smoke, and it just smelled like burning, like a smell I'd never really experienced before. And I passed out. And I woke up in the hospital, and the first thing I asked the nurse was, where's my security team? It was two individuals that were in the vehicle with me, and she said, I don't know. I can't. She said, I don't know. Calm down. We'll find out. I'll get as much information as I can. And I passed out again. And the next thing I know, I'm in another hospital, and I'd already gone through surgery. So I'm asking again, what happened? Like, I'm still at this point not even clear on what all happened. And that's when my commander came to visit me and kind of filled me in on the whole story. And my security team, the two individuals, did survive. They were injured, but they're good, and they survived. However, and unfortunately, those war correspondents that I was going to meet, 7 of them did not survive. And,
no kidding.
No kidding.
Wow.
And that's really what, again, was another point for me. Now, look, this is why I say your words create your world. I had this story in my head for years. There's no honorable way out for me. But I also had made this deal in 2003 with God that I was gonna follow through and live out my talents to the extent that I could, right, to the best of my abilities.
That's right.
And so here's what happened. I'm repeating the story in my head over and over, and at the time I was at I guess I was at about 17 years of service at that time when the explosion happened, and I was looking at retirement, early retirement.
Wow!
But look at all I had to go through. I went through a 9-hour surgery. I couldn't walk. I had to learn to walk again. I had to. I suffered with PTSD for a while there. I mean, it was hard. But in my head, the story I was saying was this was my only honorable way out. And if there's one thing I would love your audience to get, the story that's in your head is going to become your world. It is going to be your life. Whatever it is that you're saying over and over and over again is going to be your life. You will manifest that thing.
Isn't that
in my case?
Yes, I mean that's important to understand that, and you'll hear it from all kinds of different motivational speakers, all different kinds of books you read. But it is what you think about is what you become, and that's what Kelly's referring to here. What you think about the most, what that story is inside of your mind, right, Kelli?
That's right. That's exactly right. And going through all of that trauma is what changed my story. I said, oh my God, I did this. I created this, And I said, and if I can create that, I can create anything. And that's when I started a foundation for women with PTSD. That's when I started my agency. That's when I started getting out there and speaking and helping other people speak better so that they could use their words and share their stories that create worlds that they want to live in. And that's how it started.
Again, that's really important that we understand what Kelly's saying to us, that we understand and we listen to what she's saying to us. It's astounding to me that there's a phrase out there. It's called so many people die with their music still in them, right?
Right.
People live lives of quiet desperation, all those wonderful expressions. And what they really mean is you haven't pursued your dream. You've thought about it, and you've had it in your mind. And then for whatever reason, you just haven't stepped out. You haven't stepped up. You haven't moved to that place where you're going to take advantage of all of the wondrous things that are inside of you that are going to make a difference to other people, not just to yourself, but to other people. And that's where Kelli is today. So, Kelli, when you got out of the military, you just decided to start your foundation, and then you decided to open your own business, correct?
I did. I started my foundation. I wrote a book. I wrote the book called Get Up, Get Dressed, and Get Out, and it's on Amazon. And I wrote that book really as therapy for myself. I wanted to just get my story out. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't even read my own book. It's because I'm really kind of scared to because I don't want to relive it, But I wrote the book to get my story out and get a message across to people that you can get through whatever traumatic experience you've been in, and we've all been through something traumatic, and so there's like really a 3-step process to get through it. And so I wrote the book, and then starting a foundation or a charity is hard. It is really hard, and I want to do good work, but I wasn't bringing in enough money in donations, and I said, oh shoot, I need to get a job where I can make money so I can take some of that money and give it to the foundation. And so that's really, another reason why I started the Wordslay Creative Agency. Same, it just all kind of linked together. And I, it was great doing the foundation, but I retired at 38. I was 38 years old. I wasn't ready to go knit sweaters. I wasn't ready to go play
go knit sweaters.
Play bocce or I was 38. And heck, I had a totally reinforced spine, and I was I wasn't overweight yet. I'm still looking pretty good, right? I'm all put back together. I'm brand new. So I'm like, hey, I need to do something. I need to do something with this. I can't just be sitting at home watching Maury on TV. Which I had kind of gotten into that slump where I was just watching, trashy TV and eating chocolate cake for breakfast. And I was like, this is just not good.
Actually, that sounds like a really good thing. Just chocolate cake for breakfast. That's my kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I say I retired for years, I actually did. I retired at really 19 years, 6 months, 2 weeks, something like that, because I went through all those years of therapy, and then I was released from the Army. So it did happen that I retired just at about 20 years.
Yeah, and I think what's vital in what your story has told us up to now is that for most of us, and you said it earlier, you alluded to it earlier, we've all gone through some kind of trauma in our lives. Everybody thinks they've experienced trauma that no one else has experienced, and you probably have. But it doesn't mean it's going to hold you back. It doesn't mean it's supposed to hold you back. It's the trauma there is to test you, to make you stronger, to bring you out so that you can excel in what you do. That, to me, is what Kelly's story is telling us, isn't it, Kelli?
You are so on point with that, because I was thinking so much about what all this meant, looking for meaning. And, we are humans are meaning-making machines. We want to find meaning to everything. And the truth of the matter is, everything doesn't have to have this significant meaning. So something bad happens to you. You don't then have to assign it a value. You're in a car accident. You don't have to say this car accident was bad or this car accident was good. You don't have to assign it value. You can say this is a car accident and let it be and just leave it there. And so maybe your trauma is a car accident. Maybe your trauma was you were raped. Maybe your trauma was your mother abused you. Maybe your trauma was you were left behind. And see, we get wrapped up in assigning some sort of value to that thing, and then we live our whole lives based on a value or a story that we created.
And that's really true.
When you actually have the power to change that story. So that's what I realized. A very stoic approach to life.
That's right.
Very,
yeah. I tell a part of mine all the time. I go, and we've all had our ups and downs, but I tell the one story of the story that played in my head for over 50 years. People would ask me all the time, well, Steve, so can you do this? I go, I'm not really good with my hands. I'm not a handy guy. I don't fix things. I don't repair things, that kind of stuff. And one day I was working in one of my businesses, and somebody said, wait a minute, what are you telling people? I said, what do you mean? And they went, well, haven't you done this? Haven't you done that? Haven't you done this? And I went, well, yeah. And they went, well, didn't you do this? And I went, well, yeah. And they went, well, how can you say you're not handy if you've done all of these things that required you to do all of that? And I went, I never thought about it that way. But that's really true. I had in the story I'd been telling myself for decades was that I was not the person who could do those things. And when we really sat down and started talking about it, it went back to as a kid. My dad, who was a very handy guy and did like TV repairs back in the days, when he'd get frustrated with something and I'd be helping him in the basement, he would say, "Look, you just need to go away. You're just not good with your hands. And so you just need to go play someplace." Now, he would be mad at himself. Looking back, I knew that his frustration was with himself now. In those days, of course, you're a kid. You don't know that. So when he's saying, "Hey, I don't need your help. I can't use your help. You're not going to, you dropped this, you did that." I got the impression that I was not good with my hands. And for 50 years, I carried that. And I said,
Do you know
okay.
how many people are? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, that is the perfect example of how assigning value to a story or creating a story in your mind can take you so far off your intended path, so far away.
Yeah.
Just like you said, you're living your whole life thinking you're not handy when you are. All because this, and so what happens, that's really the definition of trauma, is when you experience something that shifts your mindset in a negative way. So this is what happened. That was a traumatic experience for you. Your father telling you, "Go away." And in that moment, you told yourself, "I'm not good at this." And you spend your whole life affected by that thing, replaying that story. That's PTSD. That's post-traumatic experience.
That's right.
When you replay the story after the event over and over and over. That's the post-traumatic, right? So this is what's happening. When I say everybody has had some type of trauma, you might be thinking, "Well, no, nothing's ever happened to me. I'm not." Yeah, something happened because you're human, and we don't ever correct ourselves when we don't know to correct ourselves when these things happen.
That's right. And that's a real key factor, is to understand that we have these playing in our heads all the time. In fact, I'm working with a young lady right now, and I shouldn't call her young. She's not anymore. But working with a woman right now who struggles with self-worth, struggles with who she is and how people treat her, how her son treats her, how the son-in-law or the daughter-in-law treats her, and how all these things have played in her head for so long that now she doesn't think she's of value. And she's constantly downgrading herself and saying, "But I'm not this, and I'm not that, and I can't do this, and I can't do that." And it's fascinating to me that she has all these wonderful skills and abilities, but doesn't value herself, so therefore no one else is going to value her. Right, Kelly?
I'm going to sum all that up for you. Change your story, change your world. That's it. That's it. Change your story. That poor woman is suffering with a story that probably has, it's just something she made up.
Yes.
If you want power, you want happiness, you already have it. You already have the power to create a happy, fulfilled life, because the same power that created your miserable, sad, depressing life is the same power that creates your happy life. You already possess it.
That's exactly right. It's the same power. How do you want to use it, right?
Exactly.
And that's what we need to understand. That's exactly right. We talk about positive and negative, and I just reread for probably the 5th time one of the books that I love so much, The Magic of Thinking Big. And in that, they talk about our power, what we give value to, what we give our power to, what we give our thoughts to. And are they positive or are they negative? And I think every podcast that I do, I always offer to my people this same piece of advice. If you're one of my avid listeners, you know that I give this same piece of advice every time. And that is, get up in the morning and start your day in a great mood. And people go, "Well, Steve, how do you do that? I can't determine my mood." I say, you can determine your mood the night before if you want. But you want to put yourself in a good mood in the morning? Get up in the morning, walk into the bathroom, close the door, turn on the light, look in the mirror and say, "Wow, I'm the best looking person in the room." And not only would it put a smile on your face and make you laugh, and I've been doing this for 20 years now, and it always makes me laugh or giggle to myself, but it also is true. You are the best looking person in the room. You're doing self-worth information. You're doing a self-evaluation, and you're giving yourself positive vibes and accolades to start your morning. So you start off with a smile and a truth, correct?
And a cup of coffee. Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely.
Now, Kelly, before we, I told you I'd keep you only about a half hour. I know it's been longer than that now, but before I let you
Right.
go, if you do me the favor again of telling everybody how to get a hold of you, how to connect with you.
So the best way, the very best way to connect with me is really email me. So I listed some other ways, but here's the best way. Here's my name, Keli at KeliChe, V as in Victor, ALIER.com. It's long, but I promise, if you want to connect with me, you want to create a story that changes your world and gives you the power to create the happiness you're looking for, the one that's been so elusive, like email me. Ask me a question. You can literally ask me anything. I'll be happy to answer it. And so Kelli at KeliChevalier.com, just like Maurice Chevalier. Some people know the actor. Just like Maurice Chevalier.
Yep.
Kelli at KeliChevalier.com. Just email me, or you can go to wordslay.com or catch me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, everywhere. I'm Kelli Chevalier.
You know what's interesting about what Kelly just said is I also, and when we have our own websites, that's we get to use our name. So I'm Steve at stevesapato.com. And what's funny to me, Kelly, is that the people who've never gone outside of their box, when they say, do you have an email we can contact you on, whether it's the doctor's office or whatever it's going on. It was most recently my doctor's office. And I said, yeah, you can reach me at stevesapato.com. Now, they've got my name right in front of them. Right? Because they're checking me in or checking me out or doing something. And they go, I'm sorry, what was that? I go, Steve. I go, and then at my whole name, because that's my website, stevesapato.com. And they look at you like, you have your own website? And it's like, why doesn't everybody, right? but it shows those people have never gone outside of their box because they didn't know that there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of people like you and I out there who are making a living online with our names. Kelly at KeliChevalier.com. And the people who've never ventured outside of the box don't even understand those basics. So what we're telling you is if you stumbled across this today, first of all, connect with Kelly or myself. We just gave you our names and our numbers and our information several times. Connect with us. Step outside of your box and ask us the question that you've been dying to ask. Even if it's something simple. Some people, I do training for a living. I'm a speaker for a living. I do business coaching for a living. And a lot of times after I've done some business coaching for a month, somebody will say something. I go, oh, well, why don't we do this? I go, why didn't you ask me that before? And they went, oh, it seemed like such a stupid question. But it wasn't until they finally asked it, and it could have saved us so much time. Right, Kelly?
Oh my gosh, yes. So much time. I always start with one question. Who are you? Start there.
That's right.
You want to know which question to ask first? Who are you?
That's right. When we teach, I teach, one of the things I teach, matter of fact, I've got a couple of gigs coming up this month, just teaching professional business networking, which is how to meet people. And you say, well, people know how to meet people. And the answer is no, they don't. Because most of us start off with, and what do you do? What they do is not important. Who they are is what's important. And Kelly hit it right on the head right there. You walk up to somebody at your next dinner party, your next cocktail party, and ask them that question. What was the question again, Kelly?
Who are you?
Who are you? How simple. How many times has somebody asked you that? Now, most people will say, who am I? Well, I'm Steve Sapato. Now, here's my response to that. If she were to ask me, I'm Steve Sapato. I'm the most famous, unfamous speaker in America and damn fine business coach. That's who I am. And people will go, oh, so that's what you do. I go, that's who I am. And there's a big difference because what I do,
Huge difference.
oh yeah, what I do is completely different from who I am. And that's what, if we say to Kelly, Kelly, who are you? What will Kelly say? I don't know. Let's put her on the
I
spot
would
and find
say,
out.
yeah, if you ask me, who are you? I would say, I am my word. I am highly expressive, and I am a lot of fun.
Cool. See? What do you think yours is? So if you're listening to this podcast, who are you? I have a thing that when I'm talking about confidence a lot of times, I get someone, I said, what's your favorite song? Somebody asked me this a few years ago, and I really identified heavily with it at that moment. I still do. And I go, when you walk into a room and you want to exude, like I want everybody to turn and look at me. And when I'm 30 pounds lighter than I am right now, some people mistake me for Sean Connery. But I got to be 30 pounds thinner than I am right now. Right? Because I have the gray beard and the hair. And for some reason, they think I look like him. I've been in trying to buy tennis shoes, and some guy looked at me funny, and then he finally walked over and he goes, hey, you're not, I go, no, I'm not, but thanks for asking. And it's, but so, you know, when you do that, when I want to walk into a room, now we always, like Richard Gere could walk in a room and all the women would turn and go, oh, Richard Gere, or somebody like that, whoever you've got in your head.
Oh, yeah.
But when you want to walk in a room and capture somebody's attention, what song would you love to walk into the room with? See, mine is Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, just because I really emote to the beat and how that guy swaggered down the street when he started strutting his stuff. And when I want to walk in, you won't see me bouncing and strutting my stuff, but you'll see me walking with a completely different air of confidence when I've got that in my head playing when I walk in a room. What song identifies for you to give you more confidence and more charisma?
That is such an awesome question. I think it'd be, I Am Titanium.
Oh, yeah.
Is that Katy Perry? Like, I am titanium. Okay, I'm not gonna embarrass myself. But I think it would be that song. Yeah, that is so interesting. I'm gonna think about that too. Like, what song do I want playing in my head?
Yeah. And so all these are little tricks that she and I use to help us be more effective in whatever we're doing. Who are you? What song identifies for you in projecting a new image? Play that in your head. See yourself with that fantasy, because that fantasy can become your reality. And that's what we're talking about here, is making your dreams, the one that you've always kept in the back of your head. Kelly kept saying it over and over, which is, I knew I was this. When I was 6, I was published as a poet. When I was this, I wanted to be that. And then I got sidetracked and then when I had my opportunity, I went back to who I really wanted to be. Who do you really want to be when you're listening to this podcast? What can you do to make that happen? And so many times, Kelly, I run across people who say, I don't have any idea. I go, then what we need to do is work on several aspects of your life, one of which might be just meditation. Right? Meditating long enough in the morning, 15, 20 minutes in the morning, just to listen to the birds, just to listen to yourself breathing. And you know what? Some things will come into your head that you hadn't thought of in decades. And those things might be who you really are.
You know, I get that question. Obviously, in the work that I do, I always ask that as my first question. And most people struggle with, who am I? And I give them this scenario. I say, well, how about this? If there's a zombie apocalypse, right? There's a zombie apocalypse. And it's you and maybe one other person on the earth that you know of. And you've got to start all over again. What is it about you that's going to create the world that you want to see? So we're scorched earth. What is it? And a lot of people will say, well, you know, I would want to plant something because I would want to start my life with healthy living. I'd want to start a world where everybody ate better. Oh, well, maybe that's what you are. Maybe you are healthy. Maybe you are, you know, an advocate for a healthy lifestyle and, you know, living life to the fullest. Right. Or somebody might say, well, you know, if it were just me and I could just start everything from the beginning, you know.
Unfortunately, the last part of this audio was lost in translation, and I apologize for that to both Kelli Chevalier and my listeners, but I hope you got enough out of this episode to help you find all of your dreams and make them come true. I'm Steve Sapato with The Happiness Agenda, and I'm wishing you all a blessed